Western Sydney doesn't wait for permission, it builds. Welcome to Westside Stories Beyond the CBD, the podcast where I sit down with the people shaping the engine room of Sydney. I'll chat with the leaders and community builders whose stories are bigger than a job title and whose impact is felt right across the West. Each episode is a real conversation about the moments that changed everything, the risks that paid off, the mistakes that hurt, and the lessons worth stealing. I'm Johnston. Let's get into today's story. Okay, I'm here today with Helen Hamilton-James, who's been kind enough to give her time up and come on Westside Stories. Helen, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to at the moment, and then we'll do a deep dive into your career and chat about some passion projects that you're up to as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, and thank you for inviting me on the podcast today. It's very exciting. So at the moment, I have got a role, which is a really exciting role. I'm the lead partner at KPMG for Greater Western Sydney. Mm-hmm. So my role is really around making sure that the firm is connected into the clients' issues and the opportunities for our clients in the market and really making, supporting and helping Western Sydney grow.
Right. Okay. Well, let's, and you're certainly doing that. I think we spoke a moment ago off air about you made the influential list of the top 100 people in Western Sydney. So we're honoured to have you on today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, why don't we go back early in your career, and you studied law. How did you end up in accounting?
It's a very good question. So I'm from the UK. I grew up in Scotland. I went to university in Scotland. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So keep your options open. Law was a good option. So I did, 4 years of honours, and then I actually went overseas for the summer to Italy and au pair. And I spent some time there thinking about what did I actually want to be able to do. And again, as you go from school into university, you don't think about some of these things, but Scottish law was, you could practice in Scotland. So you were essentially constrained to Scotland. I looked at whether I could go and practice law in England, and I'd have to have done another 2 or 3 years degree. So I was like, well, I actually want to be able to do something where I can travel and see new things and experience other places, I guess. And so a friend of mine said, well, there's this thing called accountancy, particularly audit. So external audit, there's the big six. It was big six firms at the moment. Why don't you think about doing that? So I was like, well, I'm not very good at maths and don't know anything about it. But I, sort of that was the trigger. And I actually ended up dropping, well, I didn't drop out. I dropped out of honours, sort of the diploma for law. Took a year, stayed in Italy for the year, and then came back and ended up, I knew I wanted to go to London, so I applied to some of the firms in London to do this thing called audit. And was lucky enough to get 2 opportunities at the time and took the one at Deloitte. Right. Yeah. I also got another one at KPMG, which is interesting. So life comes around in circles.
Full circle. Yes. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And so then why don't you run us, so you started out in London?
Yes.
And you learnt your trade there.
Yep.
What sort of clients and companies were you dealing with?
Variety. I did a lot of work in real estate and sort of manufacturing clients. I actually did a couple of secondments as well. I went to a client and did help them with their internal audit, sort of did internal audit reviews for them for 3 months.
Right.
Worked in our forensic department for 6 months as well. So I was really trying lots of different things to sort of see what gelled and what I liked, and just learning.
Yeah,
learning
okay.
Lots. All the time knowing that I wanted to go overseas at some point.
Right.
And that I actually didn't mention that before. That was another attraction of the big six at the time, is they had and they still do have these global programs where once you do your 3-4 years and you qualify as a chartered accountant, you can go and work overseas for 18 months, 2 years.
Yep.
And that was really what I wanted to do. That was sort of the driver for joining.
Okay. You wanted to be a world citizen.
I did. I just thought the world's so big and I love traveling. I thought, why not do it with work?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you work in London. How long were you there for?
4 years.
4 years. And then let's understand the journey about how you ended up here in Western Sydney. Why don't you talk us through that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I know we're going to talk later about the importance of mentoring, but I think that's, the reason I'm in here is because of one of my most influential mentors.
Uh-huh.
So I worked with him. He's an Australian, he was doing the other way. So he was doing his secondment in London when
Right.
I was there. So I worked with him on a job when I was a first year, and he was probably, my supervisor at the time, so third or fourth year. And got on really well with him. We had a lot of fun. It was the only job I ever did in London where we worked all night. So
Right.
I should have been thinking.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got on really well with him, and obviously I told him I was interested in, the secondments. And when he came back here, he's like, Helen, why don't you come over to Sydney? And he sort of helped me through. And he said, oh, it's great. We're down the beach every day at 4. And I was like, yeah, this naive little, 22-year-old or whatever. And I said, oh, okay, that sounds fun. So, and it's interesting. When I got the offer, I actually had the offer to come to Deloitte in Western Sydney, which is interesting. And I was like, no, I want to go to Sydney. Pete, who's my mentor, was in Sydney. And so I think he probably pulled a few strings and got me into Sydney. But that's kind of how I got here. 18 months later, like, I'm quite enjoying this. I was getting to know my clients. 18 months isn't actually very long.
No.
Particularly when you're on an audit cycle, which is annual.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, well, let's extend for 12 months. And a friend said to me, if you go past 3 years, you're never going to leave.
Right.
I was like, no, that's not me. And anyway, so I'm still here.
You're still here.
Yeah, that's right. So I keep joking and saying, well, I haven't gone back to Scotland yet. But
And then you had an opportunity to move over to Papua New Guinea?
Papua New Guinea,
Yeah.
yes. Again, another place that I'm hugely passionate about,
Yeah.
and not somewhere that I ever thought I would end up. That's right. So sort of through my career, I got this opportunity. And again, this was still through Pete mentoring me. And he was leading what we call at the time our office and managing partners. So we have office and managing partners in all of the offices, and Papua New Guinea's was part, in Deloitte's and also in KPMG, is part of the Australian firm.
Right.
So the P&G managing partner was included, and we had these meetings, and they realised that there weren't any women OMPs, office managing partners. We had one who joined in Canberra, but essentially it was one or none.
Yeah.
So they brought me on as part of what was called Inspiring Women's Mentoring Program. And so Pete sort of brought me in. I came to all of those meetings. I connected with all of the managing partners, did a project for them, sort of helped support and got to know what a managing partner was all about. So that was, again, putting me in a position to learn and to be mentored.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in London doing some work, and Pete called me and he said, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, okay. And obviously I knew, I didn't know, but I assumed it was a role.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, anything but P&G, because I didn't know anything about the country. I just heard how dangerous it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I'd like to offer you the role of managing partner in P&G." And it was really interesting. It was one of those moments in my life where I knew I was so excited. It was that gut feel that's an awesome opportunity.
Right.
And then 2 minutes later, it was like, oh my God, I've got kids, animals, and it's dangerous. But I knew that it was, I had to take the opportunity. So it actually took me 3 months to sort of really decide. And my mother didn't talk to me for those 3 months.
Oh, really? Oh, dear.
Because I was taking her children up to this dangerous place. And, it's the best thing I've ever done, taking a complete leap out of your comfort zone and doing something completely different.
Yeah. And you found it safe over there? It was fine?
It was great. You have to, it was great. I mean, I was lucky. I was lucky. I mean, there were incidents. And you obviously hear stories. You had to be careful. We lived in a compound. We actually took our dogs up, so I felt we were really safe because we had our dogs. And but you live in compounds. You never have your windows rolled down. Yeah. But it's an amazing place.
Yeah.
People are phenomenal. The expat community is wild.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful country, and the learning opportunities for me were out of this world, really.
Right.
Phenomenal.
So you suggested to these rugby league players, get over there and enjoy.
Yeah, I do. I mean, there will be gods up there, to be honest. The Papua New Guineans love rugby.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you've got to be careful. But there'll be, as long as you get the guidance, you're told what to do. Now, I would drive around most parts, but if you were going to certain places, you'd go in a convoy or you'd have someone come with you. And again, I went to some really amazing places with my clients. My clients, who are Papua New Guineans, took me into the markets in Hagen. We went up to the village that they were from, which was called Yalabu, which was sort of 2 hours from Hagen, right in the highlands.
Right.
You travel on these roads and there was potholes and people would look at me and they'd be like, and then it got there and there was about 300 or 400 people welcoming us all to their village, all in national dress, all had come from around the village. We had to do presentations. It was and then we stayed overnight in a guest house.
Yeah.
Just the most amazing experience. I got to talk to these women, who live there.
Yeah.
Who, you just get to know them as people. But as a visitor, a white visitor, I've never have had that opportunity without having, sort of that connection through the clients. But yeah, amazing place.
Yeah.
Incredible place.
I mean, it's a common theme. People come on these podcasts and they say, seize your opportunity,
Absolutely.
take the moment. And it sounds like you did
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
So then how did you end up back in Sydney and then Western Sydney?
Yep. So I'd had a role in Western Sydney previously. So before I went to Papua New Guinea, I was leading the audit practice for Deloitte in Western Sydney. So I'd sort of started my Western Sydney journey there. I was there for about 4 or 5 years and I got to work with Danny Rezic, who was a managing partner sort of before me, and Pete was the managing partner as well before Danny. So Pete's a recurring theme in this. So I was on the Western Sydney exec. So I'd got to really understand the market, but in a sort of minor leadership role, if you can say. And then I went to Papua New Guinea. And then I got the opportunity to come back to do a national role for the firm, which was the chief operating officer for their private business. So that was Sydney based, but it was national. So Western Sydney sort of came within that remit.
Yeah.
And then Deloitte restructured their private business and took it out from being a national business unit to essentially sitting within the other business unit. So essentially did myself out of a job.
Right.
And so there was no longer a COO for Deloitte Private. And so I was like, okay, so what am I going to do now? And again, there was this role for the managing partner role in Parramatta.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I haven't been in Western Sydney for a few years, and I knew there was other people who would be really good. So it was interesting. I was talking to them about how I thought they should go for it. And then someone picked up the phone to me and said, Helen, can you put an application in for it?
Right.
And I was like, oh, again, it was just, I hadn't really thought about it. It's like this thing about you have to take opportunities, but sometimes you have to realize the opportunities there too. So I said, oh, okay. So I put in an application and I was lucky enough to get the role, which I loved. So I did that for nearly 6 years. I got the role, started the role, and then COVID hit. Right. So it was kind of interesting managing an office and a team and a market through COVID. So that was quite a challenge. And we also had to move offices during that time, which actually turned out to be a real opportunity as well, because we were the first office in the firm nationally that had designed a new office post-COVID.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time thinking about how should the office look? How will people work post-COVID? More working from home, more collaborative, different ways of working. So that was quite interesting to do that. But that role really got me back into, Greater Western Sydney in a real leadership position.
Yeah.
Fabulous opportunity to work with our clients, to work with our people, connecting with organizations like Business Western Sydney Leadership Dialogue, who are doing some amazing things. And so it was, and the timing was perfect. I think when I'd been in that audit leadership role before, Western Sydney had always been a massive opportunity for the firm, but for the country. But it'd always been a bit of a pipe dream's not the right word, but it was in the future because the airport had been approved, but again, it was 5-10 years away. Yeah. And I think when I came back in sort of 2019, 2020, it was real.
Yeah.
and it's, obviously there's still a lot of work to do, but it was really real, and it was a great time to be in that position and be able to influence the rest of the firm around demonstrating, here are the opportunities, here are the clients, here's the potential, and then also going the other way, taking our clients' problems and taking it back to the broader firm and saying, see, we can help you transform, we can help you deal with, all the things that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
We'll come back
Yep.
to all that.
Yep.
But I describe you now as an adopted Westie, right?
Absolutely.
And so what's the connection that you have with Western Sydney? Because it's deep and real.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. You say adopted Westie. I mean, like the majority of people that live here, I guess I'm a migrant.
Yeah.
So I think, understanding coming to a new place and making a home, I think is part of it. I just see the opportunity here. I see the challenges from, I guess, the past, and the fact that, Western Sydney was sort of, was not well considered. It was, was out west. It was, if there was something on the news and it was, a mugging or something, it was always Western Sydney, and there was this brand perception, but the reality underneath it is that no, there's a phenomenal amount of highly talented, diverse people that live in this region, and the opportunity, therefore, for economic growth for the region if we get it right.
Yep.
Also, the disadvantages historically of having the housing out west, but the jobs in the city, and the impulse that puts on people's life, essentially having to travel in. So I think there's that. I could really see the opportunity and the that potential for it to just be amazing, but we've got to do some things to get it right. And I also tend to, if somebody else says something's not good, but I know it is, I'll fight for it.
Right.
It's a little bit like PNG. Scotland's a bit like that too,
Yeah.
Coming from Scotland, the PNG story, Western Sydney, it's like phenomenal places,
Yep.
but people sometimes from afar have a different perspective.
Yep.
And I think fighting for the reality and the potential is something I like to do.
Yeah. No, we're the underdogs starting to get there.
Oh, I think we are there. Totally. But there, you still get some people, and I think it's less and less and less.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things I did when I was a managing partner for Deloitte, was around getting people, our leadership out to Western Sydney.
Yeah.
And again, it's still there a little bit, but and obviously KPMG is a lot better. But and I think over time, but I think, people go, oh, it's too far. Got this perception of Parramatta, which is, 10 years old.
Yep.
And then you go, it's actually not that far. Get on a train or get in a cab or drive. And then you come here and they go, oh, wow, it's phenomenal. It's great. And then you can actually get them to engage a bit more with the fact that there's all of Greater Western Sydney that sits, further west of Parramatta, and that the potential that's out there as well. So
yeah. I mean, I've seen the landscape change here over the years. I mean, having Woolworths come out to Norwest was massive at the time. Yeah. But what changes have you seen in business and industry out here over the years?
Well, if I think about Parramatta, for example, and let's just talk about Parramatta first, I think there's obviously Parramatta Square and what that's done for, business investment. So professional services, all the big four are out here. The banks are here.
Yep.
More and more lawyers are coming out here. You've got government departments. So I think there's been, from a white collar perspective, a huge investment into Parramatta, which is a change.
Yep.
And then the change around, and it's still changing, but the change around transforming the economy of Western Sydney from just, construction, etc., aged care workers, etc., which we need and they're really important, but to broaden it to workers in high tech industries. We've got Westmead up the road. The R&D work that's happening there, the health precincts that we've got. There is a huge band of businesses that work in the defense,
Yeah.
supporting defense, so advanced manufacturing, the defense, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing more consistently. So really interesting, cutting edge businesses
Yeah.
that need those skills that are really cutting edge skills as well. So that I think that's the biggest change.
Yeah. Yeah. But are we still SME to mid-market focused out here?
I think yes. There's obviously government investment,
Yeah.
and there are some very large players that have a footprint here.
Mhm.
So Goodman and some of the data center owners,
Yes.
etc. So it's slightly changed. Some of the large manufacturers from overseas have got large facilities here.
Yeah.
And there's places like Vitex, etc. that has significant manufacturing capability, but predominantly there is the small to medium sized business. Many of them privately, many of them created and built over time
Yeah.
by the family.
Yeah.
Have done very well. Many of them,
Yeah.
but tend to just kind of get on with things.
Right. We'll delve into something here. We won't talk politics, but we'll talk about some of the policies that the government has just announced with capital gains tax and the like. How do you think that will affect what's happening here in Western Sydney?
I guess it's difficult to know how it will affect it. I guess there is a big, assuming the changes go through as quoted. There's a couple of areas. One is obviously the challenge around capital gains tax for business owners, and the impact potentially on people who are starting new businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I think there's talk about tech innovation going overseas. I'm not sure that people in Western Sydney will have that opportunity as much, but I guess it's around. Is it a disincentive for people to start business? Question mark.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is around, the restructuring of businesses, family businesses around trusts, etc.
Yep.
Which I think is still to be really understood.
Yeah.
I think what it does as well is it just adds another layer of challenge. Businesses have got lots of challenges at the moment.
Yeah.
We know that we need to improve productivity. We're dealing with a fuel crisis. We're dealing with, global geopolitical issues. And there's so much uncertainty. So to then put that next level of, challenge onto businesses, I think that's the key thing. Business owners are very busy dealing with lots of things. And I think I guess my personal view is we're just giving them something else to have to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That probably segues nicely onto the skills that we need to develop here in Western Sydney. Like we've got the uni here, which is doing a great job in educating the young people out this way. What skills do you think people are going to need into the future here in Western Sydney to satisfy the growing jobs that are going to exist?
I think that's a really, really interesting question. I think I'm pretty sure we don't know yet what the jobs will actually be in 10 to 15 to 20 years' time. So I think having people who can learn continually over their career is important. So setting people up to understand it's not just a 3 or 4 year degree and you're done and that's your job for life. It's being employed is now about change. So I think there's an understanding needed for people around you're going to have to continue your learning. So maybe you do short courses through.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. I think helping people to understand and to develop skills that they're not like technical skills, but leadership skills, how to work with other people, how to collaborate, how to be creative. And I know that's hard in a sort of educational perspective, but that's so important. And I think that's where, KPMG working closely with WSU around their graduate programs, around how do we help support those graduates become job ready. And that's things like, helping them with CVs and that, but it's more around what do we as an employer look for? It's someone who we can train or can be trained, but someone that can work with other people, that thinks laterally, that's got different thinking. I think that's that's what we need to make a success of the future. And,
Yeah.
and again, obviously, if you want to be a doctor, you'll still need to do the technical things. But I think AI skills, tech
Yeah.
skills, but they're changing so quickly.
Yeah.
And that's the worry for me, is that we train people in this, but then next year, this is no longer this, it's something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just a quick one. This is why I love these conversations. Western Sydney is full of people doing big things quietly, and the lessons are practical. If this episode resonates, follow the show and share it with one person who'll get value back from it. Back to it.
And in your role at the moment, I mean,
Mm.
the technical expertise that you've had has
Yep.
gotten you so far.
Yes.
What is it that's elevated you to your position now? I mean, people talk about communicating
Yep.
and the softer skills.
Yeah. Really good question. I think it's around not being afraid of having a point of view,
Right.
but also being agile enough to understand other people's perspectives.
Mhm.
It's a big transition. So, being an auditor is very technical.
Yep.
And it's really interesting. I actually I didn't finish the whole thing, but I did part of an MBA, an EMBA, actually through work many years ago now. And I remember sitting in one of those lessons, and they said there's this transition from technical to management to leadership.
Yeah.
I think that was a real aha moment for me around, you can be the best technician in the world, but you're not going to proceed because you need to manage people.
Yeah.
And you need to manage the people who then become the technical experts. You need a certain level, but so it's more around how do you manage and then lead and inspire others.
Yeah.
I think, and it's not easy. It's not easy actually, and I think, and it's part of the education process is, we train people to be technicians, whereas I think we need to bring more of that skills training
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Your soft skills.
Soft
What it
skills.
says,
Yeah,
skills.
yeah. Because you were on the board of, tell us about your equestrian.
Yes.
Your love for equestrian first.
Yeah, so yes, I'm a passionate horse person. So it's been all the way through my life.
Uh-huh.
And that was one of the real reasons I stayed in Sydney, because I bought a horse here.
Right. You love the horse.
Exactly. I wasn't going to take it home.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm joking. But no, it was part of it actually. Yeah, so I've always wanted to give back. I think that's really important. So there's various parts to that, but because I'm passionate about equestrian and I've competed to a reasonable level, I started off by supporting one of the Equestrian Australia is complex because it's got 7 or 8 different disciplines within it.
Yep.
So I started off in the eventing committee for New South Wales.
Yep.
And then when I came back from PNG, there was an opportunity to go onto the national body. It's a federated model, but the national body's board.
Uh-huh.
And I was put forward by the people that I'd worked with on the eventing committee, and didn't realise how political and challenging it was going to be.
Right.
But again, jumped in and was passionate about the sport, but also had sort of the governance understanding to be able to try and improve things. They'd had a really challenging time, lots of director churn. They'd had a couple of fatalities in eventing, so it was a bit difficult, and so going through that board experience was I'm trying to think of the word. Challenging is not the right word. It was challenging. It was very challenging, but it was also great. And I ended up working with a really great board at the end. And we actually ended up putting the organisation into voluntary administration to be able to restructure it.
Right.
Because it was the only way to really change what had been happening.
Yeah.
In the middle of COVID. So it was really interesting.
And it sounds like you're really passionate about it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it from a leadership perspective. Yes. And you've obviously got lots of different political factors going on there and different board members wanting to go in different directions. How did you galvanise everyone to move in the direction that it has? And it's obviously come out the other side to be successful now.
Yeah. It was really around understanding what are we trying to what are we trying to achieve and who are we trying to achieve it for?
Yep.
I think one of my observations, and it wasn't just on EA's board, is that people tend to get very focused on what's in it for them or their little circle rather than stepping back and going, actually, Question Australia, for example, is about the members.
Yeah.
And what are we actually trying to achieve? And trying to then ground all your decisions in that, taking away the personal.
Yep.
Again, people, and I'm sure this is the same on other sporting boards, people who are passionate about sport are passionate about sport.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to then get them to think maybe more broadly around what are we trying to do here, which is that lens between being passionate and having the governance.
Yep.
The governance and the oversight lens.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then another thing, you're very passionate about women in leadership.
Yes.
And you talk about you're a member of the Minerva Network and Mentor Walks.
Yes.
How can we elevate women to hold higher profiles in not just Western Sydney, but in Australia?
Yeah. I think we're doing better.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think we're doing better. And I think both Minerva and Mentor Walks are really focused on supporting, Minerva is supporting female athletes.
Yeah.
And Mentor Walks is a bit broader, but it's around supporting women at all stages of their career. And I think, we've obviously got things in place like parental leave and work from home policies. I think having flexibility supports women and primary carers, not just women. So I think that's really important. I think having that framework, which I think we've pretty much got, but I think it's support, it's mentoring, it's coaching, it's sponsorship of women, giving women opportunities, not making assumptions.
Yeah.
If I can just go back, I think there's quite an interesting insight for me around the PNG opportunity. So the two people that selected me to be given the opportunity, it's interesting, they were looking through all the partners in the firm going, who would we want to put forward for this role? And they came across my name and they said, well, Helen would be phenomenal, but she won't want to go.
Right.
But then they must have just done their unconscious bias training because they went, no. And this is amazing that they did this. They actually went, well, hang on. We think she's the best person. Let's actually ask her.
Right.
And they did. And it was life-changing.
Yeah.
So I think, I think the important thing for me is giving women a voice, supporting them, but also then, giving them a bit of a leg up sometimes around here's an opportunity for you, which I think you can do, and I'm here to support you.
Right.
Again, if I think about a couple of examples when I was in Papua New Guinea, again, the culture when I'd got there was very much partner, kind of, it was partners and they made all the decisions. And that doesn't work for me. It's all about empowering the team because I don't know all the answers. So it's about empowering everybody in my team to do the best they can and to bring ideas. And that was really important for me. So I had these phenomenal female directors, which is a level below partner, up in PNG. And I remember going up there and just being shocked by, the fact that they didn't feel they could make any decisions or have a voice on anything. So I gave them very small leadership roles. I said to one of them, go and lead the Inspiring Women's program. The other one, go and lead, our impact, around a community with the work that we do in the community.
Yep.
That I could see their talent, but they didn't have the confidence and they didn't have the support to improve and to change and to take risks, essentially. So I gave them this and I said, let's just keep it simple. I'm here to support you, but you're the leader. And I think that to me is how we change for women who want to be in leadership positions. Not all women want to be in leadership positions, as not all men do either. But I think where we've got talent and opportunity and a need for people with that, that ability, as we do in Greater Western Sydney, I think it's really important to frame it around. And it can take some time. You spend time with people, but it's valuable and it changes their career trajectory and it helps you as well, right?
Yeah. So just continuing in that theme about elevating women, is it up to an organisation, do you think, or is it up to the leader of that division or team?
Great question. I think it's both. I think the organisation needs to have the framework in place that we spoke about and the culture that allows, women and men to be flexible.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I know there's still some organisations where that culture's not there.
Yeah.
So I think the organisation, yes, but then the leaders within that organisation, absolutely. It's, you can't rely on someone else to do it for you.
Yeah.
And I think it can be at all levels. It's not just the leader, the CEO or the partner in charge. It's through all levels, I think. As soon as you've had 12 months experience or you're starting to lead small teams, you've got as much obligation to do that, I think, for the people coming through below you.
Yeah.
Really important.
I mean, it's funny, in a career, I certainly know in my career, if you do well from a sales perspective, you get promoted.
Yes.
But I think leadership over time hasn't really been taught. And you think about getting to your level now, it's all about leadership.
Yes.
So how can companies have an emphasis more on training around becoming the best leader that someone can be?
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's how do you get the ROI on the investment spend? And again, I was lucky enough to be at an organisation for the majority of my career when I was kind of going through that transition that saw the benefit of investing in leadership.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough. I had an executive coach on several occasions. We had a lot of opportunity to do training, leadership type training, and I guess I was lucky. So I think but if you're not in an organisation where that's inherent in, and I think you have to think, well, maybe I need to go and do that myself.
Right.
I think that's an important thing too, is not all organizations will have the same focus on doing it for you, or not doing it for you, but helping you and putting it in place for you. So there are lots of organizations that help women and men develop leadership skills. So I think recognizing that to advance, you will need that.
Yeah.
I did a great course a couple of years ago with Chief Executive Women, which was mind-blowing. And there's lots of other organizations that do these different courses to just make you think about yourself and your skills differently, how to lead, and it's all about understanding yourself, I think, and then helping others to work through that. So I would say, if you're not lucky enough to be in an organization that's doing leadership development, go and do it yourself. Find somewhere else that you can do it. Yeah. And there's a cost, and I appreciate that, but it is tax deductible.
Right.
Usually. Don't tell you that's tax advice, but it can be tax deductible, and it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. So, and again, let's relate that back to finding a mentor.
Yeah.
For anyone in business at the moment, I think we all need mentors, right?
Yes.
What should people be looking for in a mentor?
Yep.
And then how can they drive that relationship themselves to make sure they're getting the most out of it?
Really good question. I think it's interesting. A lot of organizations have mentoring programs put in place. And I think it's a bit potluck whether you get the person that is right for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding someone that you admire, that you look at and you go, I would love to be able to do that.
Right.
So if I think about another of my mentors, he was phenomenal at networking.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he was a master at, he still is, he's a master at networking.
Yeah.
External, and he had all these great relationships with clients. And I was kind of quite reserved, and it was, I was coming through that transition from being technical. It's like, what do you talk to? What do you talk to? Talk to someone about. So it's like, how do you identifying with where you see your skills gap and approaching somebody who you see that's got that. And I think it's interesting. I remember a very senior female board member saying something I was up many years ago, saying, we're all busy, yes, but approach us because we all want to give back.
Yeah.
So I think don't be afraid to approach the person, but make sure you're going to them because they've got something that maybe you don't have and that you want to learn.
Yeah. Okay. And I'd encourage everyone out there to do that.
Yes.
Irrespective of male, female, whatever.
Yes, definitely. Yep.
So we've spoken about some of these key career moments that you've had and that you've been lucky enough in some instances and other instances you've sought them out. What are some things in your career that you'd change?
Oh, goodness. Nothing. You can't change anything.
If you could go back in time, what's a decision that maybe you've left on the table that you thought, gee, that could have added value to me now?
I think I stayed static for too long. So I became an audit partner. I can't remember what year, 2004. At Deloitte, and that's a big achievement.
Yes.
But then I stayed as an audit partner for probably 10 years and didn't then move. I mean, obviously I was doing my job, but I didn't then progress. So if I was changing anything, I would have the conversation I had like 4 or 5 years earlier. So it was interesting. Maybe I can just share this story. So I'd been an audit partner for sort of 8 or 10 years, and there's a leadership position came up for one of the audit divisions in Sydney, and I was in that team, and I thought, I'll get the job.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I didn't get the job, and I went to the partner in charge, and I said, just wanted to understand why I didn't get it. He just looked at me and he said, didn't even know you were interested.
Right.
So and I was like, and that was like a moment. That was like again. So I think, talking about changing things, I would have changed that. I would have actually woken myself up 5 or 6 years earlier and gone, I want that. I knew that I did want to progress, but I would have then had some conversations early, not just assumed that people knew what I wanted to do, and got feedback around, well, what do I need to do to get there? Yeah. So I think that would probably be the key thing.
So career conversations are two ways.
Yes. Yes. Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to be brave sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's where having a really good mentor is helpful, because you can have some of those conversations with them.
Yeah.
And then, have the difficult conversations with your boss or whoever you need to have those conversations with. But you can then at least have had a few run-throughs.
Yeah.
I think that's important, and done the thinking around why and what they might be thinking of you when you come to have that conversation with them.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see if we can skip back to some of this giving back and the boards and what you're involved in from that broader side of the community. Tell us what you're up to from that perspective.
Quite a lot, actually. So I am lucky enough to be I'm officially on 3 boards at the moment, and I'm the independent chair for an audit and risk committee for a 4th organisation.
Mm-hmm.
So one is in early learning and sort of child support, which is phenomenal. One is in care at home for aged care.
Yep.
One is sort of in the sustainability and renewables, not renewables. Recycling. So we're a platform, and we take product that's going to go to waste. It's going to be put in landfill. So white goods, computers, all that sort of stuff, clothing. And then our platform then links it to charities where people have a need for that.
Oh,
so it's kind of encompasses a few things. So that's an organisation called Good 360, which does some really good things. And then I'm on the Audit and Risk Committee for NECA, which is the National Electricians and Contractors Association, which again is a federated model. So my experience at Equestrian Australia is useful for that one, but it's really interesting. Again, we talked about skills gaps.
Yeah.
And I talked about, soft skills, but we need more electricians. We've got this shortage of electricians, and NECA does some great stuff it's sort of the trade association, but in training and lobbying for improvements in that sector. Yeah.
Okay. And just sort of wrapping up things a little bit now. Where do you see Western Sydney in the next 10, 20 years? You mentioned earlier in the chat that there's still more to do. Like, we are there, as you pointed out, but there's still more to do.
Definitely.
What do we need to do to be better here? Even better again?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think we're going in the right path with the vision around we need more jobs in Greater Western Sydney. So I think there's a vision. I think the challenge is, how do we execute on that vision when we've got, when we've not got one organisation that can say, let's do this, this and this to make it happen. We've got, private owners, we've got local governments, we've got other governments. We've got this tension between the need for housing and the need for industrial land and jobs. So I think we've just got to keep this vision clearly at the forefront and try and bring people along, obviously conscious of commercial decisions that need to be made, but just think we've got this phenomenal opportunity to create Western Sydney as we want it, rather than to have it, just extending the challenges of the past where we build more, or it's all housing and people still have to travel hours to get to work. So how do we make it livable? But it's around having voices like, David Borgia, for example, those voices, Western Sydney leadership dialogue around just reminding people of what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, Jennifer Westacott does a great job at the university and at Bradfield as well around this is our opportunity to create the economy of the future with some of those advanced manufacturing, defence, all of those med tech, all of those industries that if Australia needs to sort of re-energise and move away from the mining over the years. And I think we've got the land here, we've got the space, we've got the vision.
Mm-hmm.
How do we corral decision makers to align with that?
Yeah.
That's the thing for me.
Okay.
And then how do we make sure that we optimize the talent? I think the talent will optimize themselves, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Well, finally, if I invited someone from overseas to come to Western Sydney and they spend a day with you, how would you sell Western Sydney to them? Where would you take them?
That would be easy. Could take them at lots of places.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends who it was too, on what their interest was, because obviously there is the whole cultural and tourism side of Western Sydney that I think is undersold. That there's so much potential. We haven't talked about that. There's so much potential for the visitor economy.
Yeah.
Obviously, Powerhouse will be opening soon. We've got when Riverside reopens, and we've got lots of beautiful parks, and so there's the tourism angle. From a advanced manufacturing and those future facing industries, I think I would definitely take them up to Westmead. I think that's world class. Again, it's a little bit under the radar.
Yeah,
it is world class.
It is.
Again, I've been around the a couple of the institutes up there, and it's honestly what we do there is world class, and I think we don't elevate that enough. And then obviously out to the airport, it's beautiful. Still, in a bit of a green field, but you can see the potential. And then the other one that would be on the list would be the advanced manufacturing research facility. I was lucky enough to go there not so long ago, and I was blown away by what we're doing there and the opportunity for businesses to essentially have access to the best technology in the world, really, on the doorstep, and to be able to just come in and use it. Well, got to pay, but to come rent it and lease it and use it, rather than have stuff created overseas and the cost of that, and or not be able to do it because they can't invest themselves in the machinery.
Right.
So it'll be a busy day.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on the Westside Stories today, Helen. And may the West long live high.
Exactly. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Westside Stories Beyond the CBD. If you enjoyed it, follow the show and leave a quick rating or review. It always helps more people find the stories. And if there's someone in Western Sydney whose story you think deserves a microphone, send me a message.